So I guess as organisations, you're thinking, okay, that's fine, but what's required of us? What do we need to do? What amount of effort is it for us? What's the experience of other organisations that have been part of Street Support Network? So we've got 3 people who are from other cities who've been part of Street Support networks set up in other cities, and they're going to Alistair is here. That's great. So I'm just going to introduce Alistair Doxett-Purser, who is from Faithworks Wessex, Paul Goodman, who's from City Life Church. I should know which city, tell me.
Woodman in Southampton. Yeah, nice to see you.
Southampton, welcome to the north, and Matt Nelson from It Takes a City in Cambridge. So I'm just going to hand over to you 3, and thanks very much for coming on and joining us in Edinburgh. But it was just really just to give us a few minutes each on just what was your experience of being part of Street Support, and really crucially, what is the sort of commitment from an organisational point of view? Alistair, would you like to kick off?
That'd be great. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome from the South Coast. Cracking the flags here, of course. So I'm sure it's the same with you. Just to bring you up to speed. So I work for a local charity called Faithworks, as Fiona has said, and I'm part of the homelessness partnership that we've got here. I think I would say 3 things that we particularly noticed. So we've poor old Gary has been working with us for a million years to try and get us to the point where we are now. But it's the journey has been really worth it. We first got to this point where actually a group of partners, which included people like Shelter, The Big Issue, who else was there? The Salvation Army and Citizens Advice all sat down, and we think we were doing a good job. And then the guys from the university came along and said, my students do not have the faintest idea what is open when. So they're all rocking off to the town centre, try and give out food and stuff because they don't know what else is happening. And actually that challenge was the thing that brought us together and said, actually, if we could put all the information in one place, that would be super helpful for everybody. So that led us to investigate what are the options around. That led us to talk to Gary and Viv, and that led us to actually getting Street Support, which has now become, because we are a tri-town borough, if you like, it's Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. So we are now Street Support BCP. But I guess there are 3 things that come out of that for me. One is that Street Support gave us a project to work on together. And actually what that helped is to form the coalition and the partnership that actually has then led to what if you like, the catalyst for the partnership we now have. So earlier on at lunchtime, we had a partnership forum, which is part of the architecture around homelessness here, where we had 32, 35 people on from a mailing list of about 180, who are all involved now in action groups around the sort of focus of what it is we're trying to deliver. So for me, Street Support was a great catalyst for that partnership working. The thing, though, we found most helpful was to start to see the add-ons. So one of the things that has been most useful has been having an alternative giving site, which we call Change for Good. And the guys in Manchester worked really hard to get this set up for us because it provides us now with something that we can say to people, you don't have to give cash to someone on the street, you can give it into Change for Good. And it's absolutely linked with Street Support. So Street Support is now becoming the partnership website, if you like, for the partnership. And we've got a lot of work to do. So when we're coming down to sort of what effort does it take, I think there are some things you need. You do need a coalition of the willing to keep it going. You all know this probably better than I do, but partnership working doesn't just happen. It needs people to keep on and keep on and keep on. We actually employed, so we got some funding. Indeed, we actually created a CIO, a charitable incorporated organization here, of the charities and the agencies who were involved, because we needed a legal entity where we could go and get some funding to get us some money to put behind Street Support and the things that fell off from that. We also set ourselves, and it hasn't been perfect by any means, but a project worker. We found a lady who was working at the university who we're paying 6 hours a week for, to try and keep the wheels on, if you like, on the day-to-day. What has been clever is she has brought in some volunteers from the university, some students who have been our halfway house people with some of the organizations. because it's a great thing that organisations can keep their information up to date on street support. Actually getting them to do it is another step. But having these volunteer students has been really good in terms of forming a relationship, so that actually they can go a little nudge here and there to go, have you updated your information? We're terrible at getting news articles on there. Gary screams at me through his text every 10 minutes to do this. And, you know, that's the sort of thing that those students are great at, because they're sort of coming to the party to push that. So the other thing I would say is, if you can get your local uni, if you have one, a university on board, the students actually, for their RAG charity last year, they chose Street Support to be their RAG charity. Amazing. But, you know, in Bournemouth, though you may not know it, we have 24,000 students, and they're not all studying media. So to try and actually get as many of those on board with an understanding what homelessness is about and what it's not about is actually really, again, Street Support provides a very useful thing. But it does take work, but it's you know, it's been super helpful.
Thanks, Alistair. That is really, really helpful. So if anyone has any questions for Alistair or for Paul or Matt, then please feel free to ask them in the chat. And I know,
Fiona, my apologies, I'm going to have to go in about 5-10
yeah.
minutes. So if you've got any questions you want to follow on afterwards, I'm really happy to answer those.
Great. So if you want a question for Alistair, ask now, because he has to go. Thanks very much for joining us, Alistair. Really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to now hand over to Paul Woodman, who is at City Life Church, Southampton.
Hello there. Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me in. I'm sure the sun is almost setting up there in Edinburgh, isn't it? So we'll be as quick as we can. Yeah, so we're down in Southampton, and it was 3 years ago now. It's hard to believe, isn't it, that Gary and I were talking about a conference in January, pulling together council, police, university, businesses to look at rough sleeping, because all of us were getting fed up, because in the papers every week, one group was blaming another group for the problem that was there in Southampton city centre. So the police are blaming the council are blaming the churches are blaming the police, and the list goes on. And so we got each other in the room, and for a weekend, two-day conference. And the first half of it, we said that we'd only listen. And so that was painful for Gary. I can remember him sitting on his hands. He's a very good listener, but the challenge is, like, Gary was saying, look, here's the solution, it's Street Support, I can give it to you today. And so, but the real challenge was to listen to one another, to hear the issues around public health, the issues around council, the businesses, and to really understand from one another. And then on the next day, we said, right, what do we think are the key problems in the morning? We just had the morning to rattle this out. And it was clear really that coordination was our key thing that was wrong. And particularly, I mean, we even had two groups serving the same group of people at the same place food on the same night. So we had one group going at 6 o'clock, another group going at 7 o'clock. And the people were in the room just looking down at their toes, because they know it doesn't make sense. And so we pledged to launch Street Support 3 months after that January conference we had. And in April, the team were fantastic. So literally within 12 weeks, we had the app launched and the website launched with the Southampton banner. And that then created a lot of momentum in Southampton, because people know how long it takes to get a website and app together. And here it was, done and dusted in 3 months. And so that then led to us writing a charter, which the university were instrumental on. The Deputy Vice Chancellor took that on herself. And then since then, really, over 3 years, we've had 6 conferences. So probably twice a year we've met together, and online this year, and just updating each other on that common vision. And what it's done, every time you're there, and like for the last conference that we had in person in March, there's a charity down here that provides dentistry to people that are homeless. And so we just gave her 5 minutes to speak at our conference. And at the end of the conference, the council leader said, I'll fund 20 sessions for you, because I love this project that you just spoke about. And so she's got funding to do that just off the back of that. But there's a real power that comes when it's not the council trying to solve it or the university, but it's all of us in the city working together. And that really is the night that kills the dragon, isn't it? That sense of partnership work. Gary does challenge me a lot. So when I think I'm performing well, he'll tell me 10 things I need to do better, which I love. And one of those was when we did our first video to promote the work around Street Support, he said, Paul, it'd be great if you had the logo of everyone at the end of this video, So the university, NHS, police. And I was looking at Gary and thinking, sometimes it could take 6 months to get a logo from a university or the health or police. They're not easy places to get a logo from. We said, well, see what you can do. And sure enough, because of the trust we built up over that time, we had 40 logos on there, including logos you wouldn't quickly get at the end of our video. And at the end of it, everyone feels proud to be part of that change that's happening. And I think coming into this year, I'll finish in a minute, Fiona, coming into this year, because of those partnerships we built up and the trust and the fact that we feel as though we've had some wins through the last couple of years, we've really worked through COVID together, and we've supported one another when things have been tough, worked together with the hostels. I was able to find some money to pay a chef to cook for people that were in the bed and breakfast. So it was just amazing the way people all worked together. And I think before that, it would have been chaos, because without coordination, you have chaos. And we would have had this group doing this group doing that, and it would have been madness. So I do thoroughly recommend this team to you. They work so hard and they challenge us to do better. And I think as a result, we've raised our standards here in Southampton, and we continue to do so as best we can with the spur that they give us. So thanks for inviting me in today. Thank you. I hope I've covered everything. Thanks, Gary, for the thumbs up. Alistair, please.
Thanks, Paul. That's been really, really helpful, and yeah, really great to hear how it's bringing people together and moving things forward. So thanks so much for that. It's it's great. It's so encouraging hearing from you and from you both and what's happening. So just to sort of finish the trio, good things come in threes. I'm going to ask Matt. So Matt Nelson is with It Takes a City in Cambridge. I think your mic's
yeah, there we go. You got me now. There we go. Hi, thanks everyone for inviting me in. Yeah, my name's Matt and I work for It Takes a City. I'm going to pick up on what Paul and Alistair said. It's about partnership. I'll tell you a little bit about Cambridge, but it's about partnership, and grab those students and get them to help you. Yeah, in so many ways, they're really, really keen. So students can be vital in this. But essentially, we've been using it in Cambridge for just over a year now. We've got about 57 organisations. There are 86 services and about 40 needs, so asks on there. And we think within the city of Cambridge, we've got it quite comprehensive now. But I will reiterate, Street Support was one part of developing a very, very strong partnership of statutory and voluntary organisations. It's provided a focus, because we made people start to think about what services they want to tell the public, be they homeless people or people looking to help homeless people. So that was important. So there's loads of work going on in Cambridge City as a result of Street Support providing a focus. So yes, we rely upon the goodwill of volunteers, but also the way that we've paid for making sure that the site is kept updated is Cambridge City, the council. They provided us with a resource. Sue Beecroft, who is amazing. But also, if you know the geography of Cambridge, it's a bit of an attractor for homeless people, because we're the biggest city outside of Norwich in East Anglia, surrounded by lots of smaller satellite towns and villages. So whether it's to find drugs or to find services, a whole host of reasons, Cambridge City has tended to attract a higher than average proportion of homeless people or street homeless people. So Gary will be pleased to tell as well, we've just gone county-wide. So because we were aware that there was that attracting factor of the city, all the surrounding local authorities have now got on board. They've seen Street Support. They've seen that it does what it says on the tin, that it's simple to understand and it's simple to navigate. So we've now pulled some resource in terms of money, but also in terms of other statutory and voluntary organisations. So the idea being, hopefully using Street Support, people in Wisbech or Ely or Newmarket will start to have an idea of what services are available for them in their town. So might be less inclined to travel to the city where they have no connections, no friendships, potentially make themselves more vulnerable. So yeah, the other thing I would say is certainly here in Cambridge, our local media, our 2 newspapers and our 2 radio stations are all over Street Support. If we contact them and say something's happening with Street Support, it's gone county-wide, they're more than happy to run articles or to give us little slots on their breakfast or their prime time shows. So obviously Edinburgh is a much bigger city than Cambridge. So please remember the media. This is the kind of story, homelessness and partnership and volunteers and people working together is a great news story, and the local media will be really keen in covering it for you. So I'll stop there, Fiona, because I know there may be questions, yeah?